In the early 2000s, one of the first Airbus A320s sold to China completely disappeared from radar. No commercial flights, no passenger records. French manufacturers were stunned when their nearly $100 million jet simply vanished without a trace. It became a ghost plane. 20 years later, French intelligence revealed the shocking truth. It had been systematically dismantled piece by piece to copy every component. This led to China's C919, their answer to Boeing and Airbus. But here's what makes no sense. Despite airlines waiting over a decade for new jets, despite a global aircraft shortage crisis, almost no one outside China will fly the C919. The reason why reveals how aviation really works.
China has unveiled its first ever large passenger jet.
Behold the Comac C919, China's first domestically engineered narrow-body aircraft, over a decade in the making. Now, this is the Boeing 737 MAX 8 and Airbus A320neo, the twin titans that rule the skies. These are the world's most coveted narrow-body jets, commanding airline fleets across every continent. Together, they dominate domestic and intercontinental routes, claiming over half of the entire global passenger aircraft armada. Picture this. For decades, Boeing and Airbus have reigned as an unshakable duopoly, 90% of the commercial aircraft market locked under their control. But here's what we've discovered about this seemingly invincible partnership. It's more fragile than anyone imagined. Boeing's recent catastrophe has sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Safety failures, quality control nightmares, production chaos. Their ability to manufacture new aircraft? Crippled. Airbus, despite their desperate attempts, simply cannot expand fast enough to fill the massive void left by their faltering American rival. And that's precisely why Beijing thinks that they have a solution. Their vision? The C919 would challenge these Western aviation giants, first conquering the massive Chinese domestic market, then, someday, claiming dominion over global airspace itself. But then everything changed when Alain Juillet, former chief of France's elite DGSE intelligence service, stepped into the spotlight with a revelation that would rock the aviation world to its core. For the first time publicly, he exposed a shocking truth. China's supposedly domestic C919 aircraft is essentially a meticulously crafted replica of the Airbus A320, dismantled, studied, and recreated piece by piece. In the explosive documentary France, China, The Secret War, Juillet revealed something that sounds like pure espionage fiction. During the early 2000s, one of the very first Airbus A320s sold to China simply vanished. Completely disappeared from all radar systems, never appeared on a single commercial flight. French manufacturers watched in absolute bewilderment as their nearly $100 million technological masterpiece, exported to China, mysteriously evaporated without a trace. No flight records existed, no routing data, nothing. It had become what intelligence operatives grimly termed a ghost plane. But the story gets even more explosive. Patrick Deveau, former vice chairman of economic intelligence at Airbus, provided chilling testimony about the fate of that missing A320. According to Deveau, the aircraft was systematically torn apart in China with one singular purpose: to copy as much as possible, to understand each part, to reproduce them identically. He pointed directly to what he called the striking similarity between the C919 and the A320. The smoking gun? In 2021, nearly 2 decades after its mysterious disappearance, that same ghost plane was discovered sitting abandoned in a field in Jiangsu province. Now here's where it gets complicated. While Airbus has consistently denied these reverse engineering allegations, Deveau suggests something more nuanced was at play. Diplomatic considerations, commercial realities. According to Deveau, international business relationships had created an impossible situation where directly confronting China would serve absolutely no practical purpose. As he explains with brutal honesty, You have to put yourself in the shoes of the CEO of Airbus or Minister of Foreign Affairs. Is it going to do any good to tell them, you stole a plane from us, it disappeared, that's not right? This reveals the agonizing balance between protecting intellectual property and maintaining billion-dollar business partnerships in the global aerospace industry, where diplomatic tensions could obliterate future contracts worth astronomical sums. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Despite COMAC's ambitious efforts to challenge the global aviation giants, whether through genuine innovation or these questionable methods, they have failed to attract even a single international buyer, not one. Think about this for a moment. Currently, both Airbus and Boeing are drowning in massive production backlogs. Airlines around the world are absolutely desperate to get their hands on new aircraft. Boeing and Airbus are struggling monumentally to keep pace with demand. If you placed an order for a new 737 MAX or A320neo today, you would wait over an entire decade before taking delivery. Those wait times, they're only getting longer. Now, claiming the C919 isn't selling might seem misleading when you examine its order book at first glance. The program appears remarkably healthy. It has secured over 850 orders across 24 different customers. While these numbers fall short of the MAX and Neo, they actually surpass other established narrow-body aircraft like the Embraer E2 and Airbus A220. For an industry newcomer like COMAC, this should represent an absolute triumph. But when you dig deeper into these numbers, you'll discover something troubling. 23 of those 24 customers are either Chinese airlines or Chinese leasing companies. Why does this matter? The Chinese government directly owns most of the country's airlines through state-controlled enterprises. And guess who else they own? COMAC itself. Given these severe supply constraints and industry-wide backlogs, you would naturally expect at least a few international airlines to take calculated risks on the C919, particularly smaller regional carriers from Asia and Africa desperate for aircraft. So why hasn't this happened? Why has the C919 failed to capture even a single genuine international customer? The aircraft faces 3 devastating problems that expose its fundamental weaknesses. Challenge number 1: aircraft performance. The harsh reality. The C919 simply cannot compete with its Western rivals in terms of range and fuel efficiency. But how is this even possible? The C919 represents a completely clean sheet, 21st century design incorporating modern aerodynamic principles and contemporary engineering. Meanwhile, the 737 MAX and A320 families trace their fundamental architectures back to platforms that are decades old. Logic dictates that the newer Chinese aircraft should outperform these aging Western competitors. The problem isn't COMAC's design team, it's their suppliers. Here's the shocking truth that will astound you. 91% of the C919 is manufactured by non-Chinese entities. Despite China's reputation as the world's factory, Chinese suppliers currently lack the specialized expertise required to build cutting-edge commercial aircraft components. COMAC has been forced to rely heavily on Western suppliers for critical systems. But these foreign suppliers maintain an extremely cautious relationship with COMAC. Given China's well-documented history of intellectual property theft and reverse engineering, many suppliers outright refuse to provide their latest, most advanced technologies to Chinese manufacturers. Instead, the C919 incorporates significant amounts of previous generation technology, proven components, but not state-of-the-art. This technological compromise becomes most evident in the aircraft's power plant. The C919 uses the LEAP-1C engine, which appears to belong to one of the most advanced turbofan families ever conceived. The LEAP-1A and LEAP-1B variants, which power the A320neo and 737 MAX respectively, deliver impressive 15% fuel burn improvements over their predecessors. However, according to a detailed Forbes investigation, the LEAP-1C is a LEAP engine in name only. In reality, this variant has been significantly detuned, and its internal architecture shares more DNA with the older CFM56 platform from the 1970s than with its contemporary LEAP siblings. This technological limitation directly impacts the C919's real-world performance. Its operational range is disappointingly constrained, just 3,000 miles, falling substantially short of Western competition. Challenge number 2, reliability and supply chain. To understand why developing a successful commercial airliner has proven so challenging for China, we must examine how Boeing and Airbus built their market dominance over multiple decades. All three aircraft, the C919, 737 MAX, and A320neo, are narrow-body, single-aisle designs. They carry similar passenger loads and serve comparable market segments. On paper, their specifications appear remarkably similar, yet Comac fails catastrophically to deliver on the two most critical factors that determine commercial aviation success: reliability and supply chain robustness. While Comac produces its own fuselage, the aircraft remains heavily dependent on Western suppliers for essential systems, including mechanical components, landing gear assemblies, flight management systems, and cockpit avionics. These critical components and their associated supply chains have played fundamental roles in establishing Boeing and Airbus as industry leaders over multiple decades. Through years of operational experience, these Western manufacturers have developed stable, reliable relationships with suppliers and partners across the globe, many of whom are close allies of the United States and European Union. As one industry expert explains with striking clarity, it's very much an international creation, with major international partners including Japan, Britain, France, Canada, Italy, Germany, and many others. These partnerships have enabled Western aircraft manufacturers to secure access to cutting-edge technologies, advanced avionics, sophisticated hydraulic systems, and most importantly, purchase orders and support networks spanning the entire globe. The situation deteriorated dramatically when the US administration added Comac to a list of companies allegedly supporting China's military activities, effectively restricting the aircraft manufacturer's access to American technology and funding sources. Even if these sourcing vulnerabilities somehow disappeared overnight, aviation experts have identified another major obstacle blocking Comac's global ambitions: the complete absence of a worldwide support infrastructure. International operators need reliable access to C919 spare parts, maintenance services, and repair facilities. Airlines typically spend 10 to 15% of their total operating expenses on maintenance and repairs. Supply chain restrictions and parts delays translate directly into additional costs that can render aircraft operations economically unviable. The reliability concerns extend far beyond theoretical analysis. Chinese-produced aircraft have faced significant credibility challenges in recent years. Consider the JF-17 fighter aircraft, positioned as a less expensive alternative to the renowned F-16 Fighting Falcon that appears competitive on paper. Myanmar's Air Force recently grounded most, if not all, of its JF-17 fleet due to cascading technical failures that have plagued the aircraft since its introduction. In stark contrast, the F-16 Fighting Falcon has demonstrated exceptional reliability and operational excellence across decades of intensive global service. This reliability gap illustrates the enormous challenge facing Chinese aerospace manufacturers in building international credibility. Challenge number 3, availability. For the C919 to function as that crucial bridge to the future, airlines would need rapid delivery capabilities. Unfortunately, that's simply not going to happen. China may have earned its reputation as the world's factory, capable of mass-producing everything from smartphones to automobiles with impressive speed and scale. But constructing passenger aircraft represents an entirely different universe of complexity, one involving millions of precision-engineered components, each demanding extreme accuracy and unforgiving quality standards. As Boeing's recent troubles have dramatically demonstrated, even a single mistake in aircraft manufacturing can lead to catastrophic consequences. There are no shortcuts in aerospace manufacturing, no room for good enough quality standards. Comac still has enormous amounts to learn before achieving the dual goals of building the C919 both rapidly and safely. This learning curve has resulted in painfully slow production rates that expose the massive gap between Chinese ambitions and current capabilities. Since production officially began in 2011, COMAC has completed just 10 aircraft, averaging less than one plane per year. To put this in stark perspective, both Boeing and Airbus manufacture more than one complete aircraft every single day. COMAC does harbour ambitious plans to dramatically accelerate production. In 2024, they projected building 7 units, a significant improvement but still microscopic by industry standards. Looking toward 2030, they hope to reach 150 aircraft annually, which would represent a massive scaling achievement. But even if COMAC hits these optimistic targets, which remains far from guaranteed given the extreme complexity of aerospace manufacturing, they would require well into the 2030s just to clear their current order book. This timeline completely negates any potential advantage of having a smaller backlog than the NEO or MAX programs. Airlines need aircraft solutions today, not promises for the distant future. None of this analysis suggests COMAC should be dismissed or underestimated as a long-term competitive threat. Both Airbus and Boeing leadership have publicly acknowledged they view China as a genuine challenge for the future, and their concerns are absolutely well-founded. China possesses massive financial resources, enormous domestic market potential, and demonstrated capabilities in complex manufacturing. But today's aviation market operates under unforgiving demands, cutting-edge fuel efficiency, proven operational reliability, and comprehensive global support networks. In all these critical areas, the C919 represents the least favorable option available to international airlines. The path forward for COMAC is clear but challenging. Until they abandon their copy and undercut strategy in favor of genuine innovation and indigenous technological development, the Boeing-Airbus duopoly will continue its stranglehold on global commercial aviation. The question isn't whether China can eventually challenge Western aviation dominance, it's whether they're willing to invest in the decades of authentic innovation required to earn that position legitimately.